Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Royce Report TV. If you've never been here before, please click subscribe. For those who do not know me, I'm Todd Smith. I'm very active in both the residential and commercial real estate mortgage market, with my residential mortgage license being with Mortgage Unlimited here in Garfield, New Jersey. I'm also the author of 3 books, 2 business books and a novel. I have with me today Mr. Charlie Wilkes. Charlie is not only a good friend, he's also a partner in the law firm of Murphy, Schiller, and Wilkes, with offices in Newark, New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey, and New York City. He leads the firm's banking and commercial finance group and real estate finance group. First, Charlie, I want to thank you for your time. I know you have a really busy schedule. We had a little difficulty getting this all scheduled, but I do very much appreciate you giving me a little time here today.
Todd, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here today, and I hope that you and your family and everybody on your end is safe and healthy out there.
We're all very safe and healthy, and the same to you and your wife.
We're hanging in there.
I'm glad. Hey, we are headed into the 3rd lease and mortgage payment due under the pandemic crisis. I consider April 1 the 1st, May 1st the 2nd, and June 1st the 3rd. And there are a lot of tenants that can't make their lease payments, mortgage companies or borrowers who can't make their mortgage companies, and banks who aren't receiving the revenue. How do you see everybody working together, and what's your experience been with people getting through this pandemic?
So I would say that everyone I've been dealing with has been working together in a spirit of cooperation, and that goes from tenants to landlords to mortgage lenders. Everyone has been working in a very cooperative way. As we approach June, I think that, that June payment for most people who've sought relief is still covered under the initial forbearance agreement that they worked out. Whether it be the tenant with their landlord or the landlord with their mortgage lender. What we saw as soon as this crisis hit in the middle of March, that people started reaching out, tenants to their landlords and landlords to their mortgage lenders, and the prevailing wisdom was, let's do a forbearance for 90 days. That seemed, there was not a one-size-fits-all approach, but pretty much everybody said, we'll give you at least 90 days. In the case of landlords, we'll take your rent and we'll, add it to next year's rent and term it out. In the case of mortgage lenders, we'll give you a period of time to make up those lost payments. But I found 90 days to be sort of the prevailing convention for forbearance and deferrals on payments, both rent and mortgage.
I'm not completely convinced that come June 1 or June 15th, the doors are going to be open to everything, and we're back to the robust economy we had before the pandemic. What do you see moving forward with July, August, September, and the rest of the year? Do you see that cooperation continuing for the forthcoming several months or not?
I think I see the cooperation continuing. I've been really encouraged by what I've seen so far. That everyone wants to work together. Banks don't want to foreclose and take back a property, and landlords don't want to, kick out a tenant to find that it's going to take them, a year, 2 years to relet the space, right? So people are trying to work together to keep their tenants, to keep their borrowers in place. Look, I think it's going to be slow going for a lot of folks. I just saw today that Governor of New Jersey has authorized non-essential construction to start up again on Monday, which is good, and to allow certain retail businesses to start doing more curbside business, which is good. But I think it's going to be a little bit of a long road ahead of us here.
Yeah, I would kind of agree with that. Have the towns also been working? Because a lot of these mortgage payments include taxes and insurances. So have you found that beyond the banks, inclusive of that umbrella group, have you seen the same cooperation?
From the state, we really haven't seen them give a whole lot of forbearance on taxes, right? towns are permitted to accept May 1 payments on June 1 without charging interest or penalties. So they've given about a 30-day grace on the May 1 second quarter tax payments here in New Jersey. As you know, tax payments are due, February 1, May 1, August 1, and November 1. So there's not a whole lot of forbearance coming from state and local governments. Obviously, they need that cash to operate the schools and pay the police, the fire, and all that. So I don't know that there's been a huge string of defaults at that level, like, at the local tax level. Like you said, most of the May 1 payments were already in the queue before this crisis hit, right? Banks were collecting escrows. Property owners without mortgage lenders had already reserved for it. I guess we'll see a little bit more about the impact on August 1.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. When we talk about commercial real estate, there are many asset classes. There's warehouses, industrial. You could also throw apartment buildings into that because, larger ones, those are 10 and above units, retail, all of the asset classes. Which asset classes do you believe are going to be a little faster to recover, and which ones do you believe are going to be a drag on the economy, or have a lag, rather, is probably a better word, in recovering? And where do you see all that going?
So I think the laggards are going to continue to be retail and office space, right? They were laggards before this crisis hit. And they're probably going to be the worst impacted. Retail real estate impacted the most of those two, right? We saw the .com and the e-commerce boom, of the past 20 years. It has driven consumers away from brick and mortar stores to online ordering. This crisis, in which you cannot even physically go into a store legally, that's accelerated the e-commerce trend. So you're going to see continued pressure on retail businesses, particularly big box type retail. Office space before this crisis, companies were figuring out how to do more with less space. And they were figuring out how to push more people to work from home to save on real estate costs. Now, with this crisis, all white collar workers are working from home, right? And they see that they can do it. So I think because of that, you're going to see more companies migrate to what I call a hotel style office arrangement, where you don't have a neat four-walled office with pictures of your family on the wall and your college diploma, and a secretary posted outside the door, right? You're going to have people working from home, and they can come into a physical office building when they need to, but reserve, let's say, an office in advance, just like you would reserve a hotel room in advance to use 1 day or 2 days a week. Accounting firms, for example, have already moved toward that model to a large extent. I think that's going to continue. I know on the law firm side, I can say I really prefer to work from the office. I get a lot more done. I don't know if I can explain that as a scientific matter, but I always feel more productive when I go to the office. So I think I'll be back.
Well, I have counterparts who love going to the office. For me, I like the isolation of being home. I work from my home office, which is currently under being remodeled, just because I just focus. I just completely focus. But everyone has their own habits. Just a curiosity question that just food for thought. You don't have to answer it. I wonder if this is going to affect home designs in the future, where a home office will be as important as some of the other rooms that are now in houses.
It could be. That I actually haven't thought about that, but I think it's going to become increasingly important, because I know, I look at my, I'm working in a home office. It was a bedroom, right, at one time, and I feel, kind of cramped and a little bit claustrophobic. So maybe there will be changes in design.
What do you know, we've had a big construction boom on what I call the Gold Coast in New Jersey, which is the part of the state that abuts the Hudson River, which has migrated out several miles now. And buildings are still going up, or at least they were before the pandemic. Do you see that slowing down? Do you just see that being currently a temporary halt due to the pandemic, and once we're back up operating, that those apartment constructions will continue?
So I am still bullish on the Gold Coast. I'm still bullish on New Jersey cities. I think that yes, there's going to be a temporary pause because of the pandemic, but I think New Jersey cities really offer the best of both worlds, right? They give you the city environment where you can go to restaurants, bars, walking distance from your apartment, but you also have relative to New York, cheap parking. So you keep a car and you can get you can get in the car and drive anywhere to see your family in the suburbs and do the other thing. So, I lived in Jersey City for a while, and I felt that it really was the best of both worlds, right? I would not be as bullish on Manhattan because of what's happened there, but I'm still bullish on the Gold Coast, I think.
The banks, people think the banks print money. I mean, that's just a general, the banks are always bad. We all need them. And the banks need their revenue in the form of mortgage payments, because out of each mortgage payment, there's a profit part, just like when you receive your payment for service and I receive my payment for service. With this shrinking of mortgage payments, do you see the banks pulling back at lending, stalling lending? How do you see a lending for quality projects moving forward throughout the year?
Yeah, I think to some extent it's a mixed bag, right? I think there have been some banks who have put a pause on new business because they want a little bit more clarity on the state of the economy, the state of the real estate market before they, commit to new deals. So I've seen some clients pause. I think there are clients out there who are still doing deals, right? Notwithstanding the drop off in mortgage payments. I have yet to meet a lender who will not consider a new deal or look at a new opportunity. I think I think that bankers at the end of the day want to do new business, right? When you meet a banker, their lifeblood is new business. They want to get out there. They want to sell, notwithstanding what's happening, and they're always enthusiastic about new business. I think the other factor that may slow things down is the simple fact there are only 24 hours in a day, and most of my banker contacts have been completely bogged down with forbearance and modification requests, requests for loans under the PPP program, and they simply can't fully evaluate new requests for new business at this time. I've heard some say, look, I'm happy to take a look at this new opportunity, but it's going to have to wait for 2 weeks until we get past, this high volume of PPP loans to be processed, right? So, I think some of it's just timing, and I think it's going to, take a little while for most bankers to get back up to full speed.
Yeah, that's been my conversation with the banks. They appear to want to do new business based around the time challenges they're having that you mentioned, and the logistic challenges, because their branches are predominantly by appointment only. They're doing a business via Zoom, via telephone and other electronic medium. We've discussed two categories in our brief time together, and maybe you could give a recommendation to both. The one was those who are being challenged right now, either with lease payments, receiving lease payments, mortgage payments, and the such, and those who have a quality product or a quality project that they would like to have financed. Just a couple quick recommendations, please.
Sure. So the recommendation for anyone who's challenged right now, whether you're a tenant or whether you are a landlord, who owns a building and can't make the mortgage payments on the building because your tenants can't pay their rent, I would say be proactive. If you're a tenant, call your landlord. If you're a landlord, call your mortgage lender. Be proactive and talk to them right away. More than anything, I think people appreciate communication and people appreciate honesty. So if you're having a difficult time, you need to come clean with your landlord or with your lender about that. You also need to be proactive in seeking out alternative sources of capital, right? So the PPP program obviously helped many operating businesses. There are other programs available, both the state and the federal level, that could provide some bridge financing to get through the COVID-19 crisis. So I think you need to be proactive on that front if you're experiencing a difficulty. As far as new opportunities, I think that there will be some great opportunities that come out of this. It's just a case that in any unfortunate crisis, some interested parties are able to take advantage of the changes in the marketplace. I'll use the example of some struggling retail. You're going to have a number of retail tenants file for bankruptcy. It's just I heard that Lord & Taylor is looking to liquidate its stores. I heard that Neiman Marcus is preparing a filing or has filed for bankruptcy. We're seeing a lot of this in the news. So those buildings are going to have to be repurposed, right? And many of them may be owned by institutional investors who simply turn them back to the bank and say, look, we've lost our tenant, we've lost our cash flow, we can't pay the mortgage, here you go. That's an opportunity for an opportunistic investor to come in and redevelop the property and potentially find a new use. I of course, will always suggest industrial, because a lot of those big buildings can be turned into warehouses to support the e-commerce industry. So I think there are opportunities out there. No one wants to be seen as capitalizing on a crisis or the hardship of others, but I think that it's just a function of market forces, and there are people who have cash sitting on the sidelines who are going to take advantage of certain distress situations.
About really, I got thinking while you were talking about repurposing retail. You go back to the Gold Coast that we spoke about earlier in our conversation. Many of those buildings were manufacturing facilities years ago. The Dixon Pencil Company is the one that comes to mind, and it sat vacant forever. So as much as I know I would hate to see someone get hurt during this, repositioning is really a factor of business at times, and it's really an evolution of how businesses and buildings are repurposed, and they go on being thriving. The transition period's difficult, though they do go on to being thriving entities, tax-paying entities, and they either, in the case of Dixon, are apartments. In case of other retail centers, they have been already turned into industrial that once again employ people. So I'm not one to bring bad news or hardship, though the upside is it could be a robust opportunity for repositioning as well.
No, absolutely. And like you mentioned, Dixon Mills, right? That repositioning can be great for the community, right? Correct. So that's a building that sat empty for many years. Now you go there, and with all those apartments, you have walking wallets, people who can now spend money at local businesses, restaurants, bars, shops, and that has led to a resurgence in the area around that building, right? So hopefully there will be rebirth out of some of the some of the problems that we faced.
Hey, Charlie, I think we're closer to the end of this challenge than we are to the beginning, number one.
I hope so.
I want to thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. I'm looking forward to another lunch down in a Portuguese restaurant down by your office in Newark. And until we speak again, and everybody else, always be well, be safe, be happy, be successful, and prepare to win. And once again, Charlie, I want to thank you for your time. Tell your wife I said hello, and have an outstanding day.
Todd, thanks for having me, and be safe. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.